All right, guys, on the table, you are looking at a Sig Sauer P225. Now, this is kind of one of those weird guns that it's kind of an oddball in a sense, but in another sense, it's actually not. It's actually had a serviceable life in regards to when it was first come out, and it was in the 1970s when this gun was actually brought to life. Again, at one time it was made in Europe. Now it's made in the U.S. I can read you a slew of facts about it. The West German police used this gun for quite a while, and it was called a P6 at that point. And then ultimately, the 225 A1 kind of disappeared for a while, and then Sig reintroduced it to a lot of question marks because a lot of people didn't really understand or get why Sig would release a single stack 9mm with low capacity. And especially when you have a 229 and 226, they had the, I think it's the P239. Don't quote me on that. It could be a 38. I'm not sure. But I think it's a P239, which is basically not I want to say a clone, but very, very similar to this handgun. It's got a little bit more curvature on the gun and it's a little bit lighter, but essentially it is this gun. And so when this was introduced, people were saying, why would you bring this gun back out? And that's a great question. It's a valid question to bring up. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have an answer why. I will tell you that I found this gun used for under $500. I mean, this is like $1,000 gun, I think. I don't even know what the MSRP is on this, to be honest with you guys. And you can check that out and you can let me know in the comments below. But when I saw it in the cabinet, I was like, boy, that's a pretty interesting gun. And I decided to pick it up. And as soon as I picked it up and I put it in my hand, I began to realize why the P225A1 is a very, very cool handgun. It is very slim and very ergonomically correct. And when I say that, as soon as I put it in my hand, it just felt right. I mean, there are certain, guns that you feel that you kind of just immediately say, boy, this gun is really fantastic. And that's how I felt when I put this gun in my hand. It is rock solid built. You've got your nitron finish on the slide, this anodized black frame here, which is all aluminum. So, I mean, it has a really nice combination. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the metal guns I have are aluminum guns. Well, pretty much all of them, aluminum and steel. And I actually like the alloy frames with the steel slides. That's just my own personal preference. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be yours, but it definitely makes me appreciate the combination of that because you're getting the heavier slide and you're getting a little bit of a lighter frame, which makes this gun very enjoyable to have in the hand and hopefully to carry. Now, obviously, some of the features you see here, you have your Sig night sights, which are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of disappointing in a way because they're not as bright as I've seen before on Sig night sights. Now, this gun is fairly young. It's not an old gun at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably reach out to Sig and see if I can get replacement sights for this that are a little bit brighter because these are a little bit dim. Again, you have all your features here. You've got your slide lock, slide release. You've got your classic decocker, which again is in a good position. It's fairly easy to use. And then here's your takedown lever. You've got a steel trigger here. This actually comes standard not only with the night sights, but also with the, well, at least this model, also comes standard with the SRT trigger. So it is actually kind of almost like a mini Legion. People may refer to this particular handgun as a baby Legion, even though it's not really a Legion, and I get that. Again, you have your exposed hammer. Again, once it's in, you put the gun in battery and the gun is clear. You see there's no magazine in there, guys. But once you put it in battery, the hammer goes all the way back, which is very standard for any double single action. Your decocking lever brings it into half cock mode, and it kind of eases up the trigger. I will tell you the trigger on this double action is a fairly heavy double action. I was measuring it before, and it was around 11.5 pounds. I've read some things online where people are saying it's 14 pounds, but this is definitely a heavy double action. Probably a little heavier than any of the CZs I own, but that's with some springs in them. Definitely heavier than the PX4, which again has a spring, and definitely heavier than the M9A3, which has nothing except for the D-spring, which it comes with. Again, the single action is where this gun does shine. It is measuring at around 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds or so. But here's a short reset trigger. I mean, that is crazy good. That's a really good trigger. And I have to say, the single action is going to be a blast to shoot this gun when I bring it to the range. I mean, overall, fit and finish is fantastic. You've got your G10 grips on here. There isn't really much to do in regards to the grips. I've already contacted a lot of grips. They don't make anything for this gun, unfortunately. And I think Hogue does have some grips for it, but I've only been able to find it for like $93. And I'm not paying $93 to get new grips because these are just fine. I mean, the texturing on the grips are very, very nice. Not overly aggressive, but enough of a bite to make your hands feel, fairly comfortable while you're holding the gun. Just to take the gun down really quick, lock it back, pull the lever forward, and no trigger pull is necessary. It comes right out. Again, this is not a captured guide rod. So once you pull the guide rod out, which is metal, the spring does come out with it as well, and you can take them apart. Without taking it down, the barrel does have a polished feed ramp, which is nice. Again, there's your little plunger safety right there. So, it looks like a regular gun to me. Now, another part that I actually like about this gun is you notice here, the entire frame is actually the rail, which is kind of cool. And, to me, that signifies that this gun is going to be a very nice shooting handgun, and it should be very, very smooth in regards to the action of the slide. I mean, you really can't, knock a gun that has a full-length slide, which is part of the frame. And I do like that feature. I have to say, it's actually very, very nice. I mean, overall, the gun, in my opinion, reminds me a lot of some other gun. But before I get to that, I do want to show you something that I thought was kind of interesting. And this is the magazine it comes with. Now, keep in mind, this is a single stack SIG, and it only has 8+1, and that's it. So you have 8 round magazines plus 1 in the chamber if you choose to carry that way. And, basically, I think that's where a lot of people will say this gun really isn't worth it because, you're looking at a gun that has low capacity, even though it's not necessarily the smallest of guns, and it is a single stack. People would argue that you'd want more capacity, and that may not be the wrong argument. So to kind of give you an example, here is my magazine to my Shield 2.0. This is the extended magazine, obviously, and it does have mag guts in here. Now, this is right now currently set at 10+1. So this has pretty good capacity. I'm not going to lie. It's a very good capacity on a gun of that size. Now, here's the magazine. You can see that the bodies of the magazine are completely different. The Shield has more of like that staggered effect in the magazine, so it makes it a little bit wider here, whereas this is your classic single. So the Shield has a bit of a wider magazine. Now, even with that, one of the interesting things that I found was that the actual length of the magazines, and I'm going to see if I can stack these up side by side so that this makes sense to you. If you stack these side by side, bottom to bottom, you're going to notice that the magazines are almost identical in length. And the interesting part is you're getting 10+1 versus 8+1. So that might be kind of the biggest negative about this handgun in particular overall. However, I'm going to say I have eight rounds here, which is okay. But I also have 3 total magazines, so 24 rounds plus 1. I think that's manageable in my opinion. Now, another gun that this sort of reminds me of, which I also love, is actually this one right here, and that's my CZ PCR. Now, the reason why I say that it reminds me a lot of it is because they both have very similar histories, this one being a police firearm, this one also being a police firearm. And if you kind of put them, I guess you can almost say top to top, there's a lot of similarities in regards to the size. Now, obviously, which one do I feel is more ergonomic? I'm not going to lie, guys. They're very close, but I think the SIG has a little bit of an advantage on that. In regards to the weight, this is 33 ounces. I can't remember how much the PCR is. It feels a little bit heavier, but again, it does have a magazine, so I'll remove the magazine. But once the magazine's out, it does feel about the same in regards to weight. Also, you'll notice neither one has a rail, which is okay by me. I don't really care. But at the same time, honestly, if I pull them side by side, this is a stock PCR. There's no spring job. And I'm going to tell you that the PCR definitely has a heavier double action and not as good as a single action as this Sig Sauer. But I think it's a very good comparison. Now, one of the things I also wanted to show you was the magwell. Now, interestingly enough, this grip feels just about as thick as the PCR grip. I mean, it doesn't really feel that different. Obviously, I have the lock grips on here that are the thin grips, so it does reduce on the circumference of the grip. However, when I have them both in my hand, there isn't really a significant difference between the two. And I found what was interesting about this is if you look in the magwell of the P225, you're going to notice that the grip is actually wider than the actual magwell, as opposed to, like, let's say the CZ, where you can see the CZ, it's basically around the same circumference with just a real thin grip on there. And that's why this is taking the single stack and this is taking a double stack, because there's no room here. This is actually the frame of the gun right here, and it kind of gets a little bit slimmer. So you have a wide face here, but then it slims out once you put the magazine in. Just like that, it goes right in, no issues, and it goes right in. You don't even have to force it in. And it also has that flat bottom, so you don't really have to worry about this not, hiding properly when you're concealing. But I mean, overall, the gun is a very nice gun. I have to say that I've been very, very pleased with a lot of the selections I've been making lately, especially with the metal handguns. Now, for you, the buyer, is this really worth your time? Is it really worth your money? Only you can decide that. However, I would say if you're looking for a single stack that's a little bit non-traditional right now, because let's be honest, we have the P365, the 365XL, the 43X, the 48, the Shield, the 2.0, the 1.0, the 4-inch. I mean, just a slew of different single stacks on the market. If you're looking for something different, this could be it. And you're getting the aluminum alloy body, you're getting the steel slide, full length rails on here, and a lot of really good features, including that SRT trigger. Do I think it's worth it? For me it is, because I really like it. For you, I can't really convince you of that either way. I think if you can find a used one that's in really good shape like I did, I think it's definitely an option. And it's kind of a neat option because, again, this is one of the very few single stacks that are made out of metal on the market today. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Tell me what you think about the P225 A1. Would you get one, or do you think it's a waste of time? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you have a great day. Stay safe. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.